He thought giving up his last bus fare to help two shivering twin girls get home was just a simple act of kindness, until their mother stepped out of a golden Rolls-Royce and changed his life forever. What started as a struggling single father's sacrifice on a cold Tuesday evening turned into something he never could have imagined. The twins had been waiting at the bus stop for hours, clutching crumpled dollar bills that weren't enough for the ride home. And when this father saw their tears, he didn't hesitate to give them his own fare, even though it meant walking 12 miles home to his own daughter. But when that gleaming luxury car pulled up and the elegant woman inside learned what he'd done, the conversation that followed didn't just shock him, it revealed a truth that would transform not only his struggling family's future, but also restore his faith in the unexpected ways the universe rewards genuine kindness. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dustin Adams had been running on empty for longer than he cared to admit. Not just financially, though that was certainly true, but emotionally, physically, and spiritually. At 34, he looked older than his years, with premature lines etched around his eyes from too many sleepless nights and worry-filled days. His hands bore the permanent stains of motor oil and grease, evidence of his work at Riverside Auto Repair, where he'd been employed for the past 6 years as a mechanic. The alarm clock's shrill cry pierced through the thin walls of their cramped apartment at 5:30 a.m. every weekday morning. Dustin would roll out of bed, careful not to wake 8-year-old Luna, who slept in the only bedroom while he took the couch. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of a converted house in the Millbrook neighborhood, where rent was affordable, but amenities were sparse. The building's elevator had been broken for 3 months, and the landlord showed no signs of fixing it anytime soon. Dustin's morning routine never varied. Coffee first, the cheap, instant kind that came in a large container and tasted like disappointment, but provided the caffeine necessary to function. Then he'd check their small refrigerator, mentally calculating what he could pack for Luna's lunch with their dwindling groceries. Usually it was a peanut butter sandwich, an apple if they were lucky, and a juice box from the discount store. By 6:15 a.m., he'd gently shake Luna awake. She was remarkably good-natured for someone roused from sleep so early, inheriting her mother's sunny disposition rather than Dustin's tendency toward anxiety. Luna would get dressed in clothes that were clean, but often too small or slightly worn, hand-me-downs from neighbors or thrift store finds. Dustin did his best to ensure she always looked presentable, even if her wardrobe lacked the trendy items her classmates wore. The walk to Oakwood Elementary took exactly 18 minutes. If they hurried, 25, if Luna was feeling chatty or distracted by something interesting along the way. Dustin cherished these morning walks, even when they were pressed for time. It was often the only uninterrupted conversation he'd have with his daughter all day. Luna would tell him about her dreams, ask questions about everything from why the sky was blue to whether dinosaurs would have liked ice cream, and share her plans for the day ahead. After dropping Luna off, Dustin would catch the number 47 bus to downtown Millbrook, where Sterling Auto Repair sat on the corner of 5th and Main. The 20-minute bus ride cost $2 each way, $4 total that he carefully budgeted for each day. On good weeks, when he managed to pick up some overtime, or when a customer tipped him for exceptional service, those $4 felt manageable. On weeks like this one, when Luna's school supplies had cost more than expected and their electricity bill had arrived higher than usual, every dollar felt precious. Sterling Auto Repair wasn't glamorous work, but Dustin took pride in it. He had a natural gift for diagnosing engine problems, an almost intuitive understanding of how machines worked and what they needed to run smoothly. His co-workers respected his skill, and regular customers often requested him specifically. Mr. Sterling, the owner, had hinted more than once that there might be opportunities for advancement, but advancement required certification courses that cost money Dustin simply didn't have. The irony wasn't lost on him that he spent his days fixing other people's cars while he and Luna relied on public transportation. Dustin had owned a vehicle once, a reliable Honda that had belonged to Luna's mother, Sarah. But when Sarah died in a car accident 2 years ago, the medical bills and funeral costs had forced him to sell everything of value, including the car. The insurance payout had covered most of the expenses, but starting over as a single parent had proven more expensive than he'd anticipated. Sarah's absence still echoed through every aspect of their lives. She had been the organized one, the planner, the one who somehow managed to stretch their modest income to cover all their needs with a little left over for small luxuries. Without her, Dustin felt like he was constantly playing catch-up, always, one unexpected expense away from crisis. Evenings were the hardest part of his routine. After the bus ride home, the walk from the stop to their apartment, and the climb up 3 flights of stairs, Dustin would find Luna either at their neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment, or if Mrs. Chen wasn't available, at the after-school program that cost $30 a week they could barely afford. Luna never complained about the arrangement, but Dustin could see in her eyes that she missed the days when Sarah would be waiting with freshly baked cookies and enthusiasm about homework. Dinner was usually something simple: spaghetti with sauce from a jar, grilled cheese sandwiches, or occasionally a rotisserie chicken from the discount grocery store that would provide meals for several days. They'd eat at their small kitchen table while Luna told him about her day in elaborate detail. She'd describe her friends, her teachers, the games they played at recess, and the books they read in class. Dustin listened intently, asking questions and celebrating her small victories, but part of his mind was always calculating how many days until payday, whether they had enough for groceries, whether Luna needed anything for school that he hadn't budgeted for. After dinner came homework time. Luna was bright and motivated, but some subjects challenged her, and Dustin sometimes felt inadequate helping with assignments that seemed far more complex than what he remembered from his own elementary school years. Still, they'd work together. At the kitchen table, Luna's papers spread out next to Dustin's own evening ritual of reviewing their budget and planning for the next day. Bedtime was at 8:30 sharp, though Luna often negotiated for an extra 15 minutes to finish a chapter or complete a drawing. Dustin would read to her from library books. They checked out the maximum number allowed each week and listened to her prayers. Luna always included Sarah in her prayers, asking God to tell Mommy about her day and to make sure Daddy wasn't too tired. After Luna fell asleep, Dustin's real day began. He'd wash dishes, prepare for the next morning, and often work on small mechanical projects for neighbors who paid him a few dollars cash for fixing lawnmowers, bicycles, or small appliances. These side jobs provided just enough extra income to cover unexpected expenses, though they meant Dustin rarely got to bed before midnight. The routine was exhausting but predictable, and Dustin found comfort in its familiarity. He'd built a life for Luna that was stable, if not prosperous. She was healthy, happy, and performing well in school. They had a roof over their heads and food on the table. By most measures, he was succeeding as a single parent, even if it felt like he was constantly struggling to keep his head above water. But on this particular Tuesday evening, in late October, as Dustin finished his shift at Sterling Auto Repair and walked toward the bus stop with exactly $2 in his pocket, his fare home, he had no idea that his carefully maintained routine was about to be shattered by an act of kindness that would change everything. The October evening air carried the sharp bite of approaching winter as Dustin approached the Millbrook Transit Center. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in deep purples and grays. Streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long shadows across the concrete platform where commuters waited for their respective buses home. Dustin checked his watch. 6:47 p.m. The number 47 bus to Oakwood wasn't due for another 8 minutes, which gave him time to mentally prepare for the evening ahead. Luna would be at Mrs. Chen's apartment, probably working on homework or watching educational programs on the small television. He'd need to stop at the corner market to pick up milk. They were down to their last few sips, and Luna's cereal in the morning was non-negotiable. As he settled onto one of the worn metal benches, Dustin noticed he wasn't alone at the stop. About 20 feet away, near the digital display board that announced arrival times, two small figures sat huddled together on another bench. Even in the dim lighting, he could tell they were young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and they appeared to be identical twins. The girls were dressed similarly in pink jackets that looked expensive, but were clearly too thin for the dropping temperature. Their dark hair was styled in matching ponytails tied with ribbons that coordinated with their outfits. They sat close, together, occasionally whispering to each other, and both clutched what appeared to be crumpled dollar bills in their small hands. What struck Dustin immediately was how out of place they seemed. The Millbrook Transit Center wasn't typically where you'd find well-dressed young girls unaccompanied by adults, especially as evening fell. Most of the commuters at this hour were working adults heading home, shift workers, or students from the community college. Seeing two little girls alone raised immediate concerns in his mind. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As minutes passed, Dustin found himself glancing over at them repeatedly. The twins seemed to be having an increasingly agitated conversation, their whispers becoming more urgent. One of them, he couldn't tell which from. This distance appeared to be fighting back tears. The other was counting and recounting the money in their hands, her small face creased with worry. Other commuters came and went. The number 23 bus arrived and departed, taking several passengers, but leaving the twins behind. A group of teenagers boarded the express route to the University District. Still, the two girls remained, their anxiety becoming more visible with each passing minute. Dustin felt a familiar tug in his chest, the same protective instinct that made him check on Luna multiple times during the night, the same concern that drove him to walk her to school every morning, even when running late for work. These girls, whoever they were, clearly needed help. He was debating whether to approach them when he overheard fragments of their conversation. The wind carried their voices across the platform, and their whispers had grown loud enough that their words became distinguishable. "We only have $3, one twin said, her voice trembling. "The bus costs $4.50 to get to Rosewood Hills. Maybe if we ask the driver nicely," the other twin suggested, though her tone suggested she didn't really believe this would work. What if he says no? What if we can't get home? Mommy said she'd pick us up at Grandma's house, but Grandma's not answering her phone, and we can't stay there anymore because the nurse said visiting hours are over. Dustin's heart sank as he pieced together their situation. These weren't local girls. Rosewood Hills was an upscale neighborhood on the other side of the city, at least a 45-minute bus ride away. They were stranded, short on money, and apparently had nowhere else to go. The number 47 bus turned the corner, its headlights cutting through the gathering darkness. Dustin stood automatically, his hand reaching for the two crumpled dollar bills in his jacket pocket. His own fare. Home. But as the bus approached, he noticed the twins standing as well, approaching the door with obvious hesitation. As passengers began boarding, Dustin watched the twins exchange a look of determination mixed with fear. They stepped up to the bus. A driver, a middle-aged man named Jerry, whom Dustin recognized from his daily commute. "Excuse me, sir," one of the twins said politely, her voice barely audible over the bus's rumbling engine. "We need to get to Rosewood Hills, but we only have..." $3. Could you please let us ride anyway? Our mommy is waiting for us. Jerry looked down at the two girls with obvious sympathy, but shook his head slowly. I'm sorry, sweethearts, but the fare is $4.50 each. That's $9 total. I wish I could help, but I can't let passengers ride without proper fare. It's against company policy. The twin who had spoken nodded sadly, stepping back from the bus. We understand. Thank you anyway. Dustin watched this exchange with growing distress. The bus driver wasn't being cruel. He was simply following rules that existed for good reasons. But these two little girls were about to be left alone at a transit center as darkness fell, with no way to get home and apparently no one to call for help. Other passengers were boarding around the twins, some casting sympathetic glances, but continuing on their way. In a few moments, the bus would depart, leaving the girls stranded. Dustin could see them huddling together again, and now both were clearly fighting back tears. The decision formed in his mind before he fully realized he was making it. Without thinking about the consequences, the 12-mile walk home in the cold, the fact that he'd already been on his feet for 10 hours, or how exhausted he'd be for work tomorrow. Dustin stepped forward. "Excuse me," he called out to Jerry, reaching into his pocket for his own fare money. "I'd like to pay for the girls." The twins turned to look at him with wide, surprised eyes. Jerry paused in collecting tickets from other passengers. Several commuters who had already boarded turned to see what was happening. "You sure about that?" Jerry asked quietly. "That's $9, and it looks like you've only got enough for your own ride." Dustin looked down at the two hopeful faces staring up at him, their relief and gratitude already visible despite his help being only a possibility, not yet a certainty. In that moment, he thought about Luna, about how he'd want someone to help her if she were ever in a similar situation, about the kind of person Sarah had always encouraged him to be. "I'm sure," he said, handing Jerry his $2. "Here's what I have toward their fare. Let me see what else I can find." As Dustin began checking his pockets for any additional change, knowing full well he wouldn't find enough, he had no idea that this simple act of kindness was about to set in motion a series of events that would challenge everything he thought. He knew about struggle, generosity, and the unexpected ways the universe sometimes rewards those who give, even when they have little left to give. As Dustin searched through his pockets, desperately hoping to find enough loose change to make up the difference, he became acutely aware of how many people were watching this scene unfold. The bus engine continued its low rumble, and Jerry waited patiently, though Dustin could sense the driver's growing concern about staying on schedule. "I've got 73 cents, Dustin announced after checking every pocket twice, his voice carrying a note of frustration. Even combined with his $2, they were still well short of the $9 needed for both girls' fares. One of the twins, the one who had initially spoken to the driver, stepped closer to Dustin. Up close, he could see that her pink jacket, while stylish, had a small tear near the left elbow, and her shoes showed signs of having walked considerable distances recently. Her eyes, large and brown, held a mixture of hope and resignation that seemed far too mature for someone her age. "It's okay, mister," she said softly. "You don't have to help us. We'll figure something out." But even as she spoke these brave words, Dustin could see her lower lip trembling slightly. Her twin sister stood beside her, clutching their combined $3 so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. "No," Dustin said firmly, making a decision that surprised even himself. "Jerry, take my $2.73 for their fare. I'll figure out another way home." Jerry's eyebrows rose in surprise. "That's still not enough, Dustin. And how are you going to get home? It's got to be 10, 12 miles to your neighborhood." "I'll walk," Dustin replied, though the prospect of a 12-mile walk after a 10-hour workday filled him with dread. "These girls need to get home more than I need to ride the bus," Before Jerry could respond, several other passengers had overheard the conversation. A woman in a nurse's uniform who often rode the same bus as Dustin reached into her purse. "I've got $2, she offered. An elderly man near the back called out, "I can spare $1.50. Within moments, other passengers were contributing spare change, dollar bills, and quarters. The collective generosity of strangers created an impromptu fundraising effort that quickly produced not just the $9 needed for the twins' fare, but an additional $3. "Take this too," said a construction worker, pressing the extra money into Dustin's hand. "For your fare home. Nobody should have to walk 12 miles for doing the right thing." As the twins boarded the bus, the first girl turned back to Dustin. "What's your name?" she asked. "Dustin," he replied. "Dustin Adams." "I'm Sophia," she said solemnly, "and this is my sister Isabella. We'll never forget what you did for us today." Isabella, who had been quietly observing everything, stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Dustin's waist in an unexpected hug. "Thank you for being kind to us," she whispered. As the bus pulled away, Dustin found himself standing on the platform, still processing what had just happened. The interaction had lasted less than 10 minutes, but something about it felt significant in a way he couldn't quite articulate. There had been something about the twins, their polite demeanor, their obvious distress, and the way they carried themselves, that suggested their story was more complex than two girls simply needing bus fare. During his own ride home on the next bus, Dustin found himself replaying the encounter. The girls had mentioned visiting their grandmother, something about visiting hours being over, and their mother picking them up at Grandma's house. But if their mother was planning to collect them, why hadn't she provided adequate transportation? Money? And why were two such young girls traveling alone across the city in the first place? The more he thought about it, the more questions arose. Their clothing, while showing signs of wear, had clearly been expensive originally. Their speech patterns were articulate and polite in a way that suggested good education and upbringing. Yet they had been stranded at a bus stop with insufficient funds, apparently without adult supervision or backup plans. When Dustin arrived home and climbed the 3 flights of stairs to their apartment, he found Luna already in her pajamas, having eaten dinner with Mrs. Chen. As he tucked her into bed that night, he found himself thinking about Sophia and Isabella. They appeared to be close to Luna's age, and he couldn't help but imagine how frightened Luna would be in a similar situation. "Daddy, you look thoughtful tonight," Luna observed as he kissed her goodnight. "Did something interesting happen at work?" Dustin considered telling her about the twins, but decided against it. Instead, he simply said, "I met some people today who reminded me how important it is to help others when we can." Luna nodded seriously. "Mummy used to say that kindness always comes back to you, but sometimes it takes a while to travel the circle." As Dustin settled onto the couch that served as his bed, Sarah's words echoed through Luna's innocent voice. He wondered if the twins had made it home safely, whether their mother had been waiting for them as planned, and if they would remember this evening as just a minor inconvenience or something more significant. He had no way of knowing that across the city, in a mansion in Rosewood Hills, Sophia and Isabella were telling their mother about the kind stranger who had sacrificed his own bus fare to help them get home. Nor could he know that their mother, Amara Scott, was already making inquiries about how to find and properly thank the man who had shown such generosity to her daughters. What Dustin did know, as he drifted off to sleep, was that something about the encounter felt unfinished. There had been a quality to the twins' gratitude that suggested they understood the magnitude of his sacrifice in a way that seemed unusual for girls their age. Most children would have simply accepted the help and moved on, but Sophia and Isabella had looked at him with an intensity that suggested they recognized something deeper about his gesture. As sleep finally claimed him, Dustin had no idea that his simple act of kindness had set in motion a chain of events that would soon bring one of the most unexpected encounters of his life directly to his doorstep. 3 days passed without Dustin giving much thought to the encounter with the twins. Life had a way of pulling his attention back to immediate concerns, Luna's math homework that required more patience than he felt he possessed after long workdays, a customer's car at Sterling Auto Repair that had developed a mysterious rattling sound no one could diagnose, and the persistent worry about their dwindling bank account balance. It was Friday afternoon when the first unusual thing happened. Dustin was under the hood of a 2018 Toyota Camry, wrestling with a stubborn alternator belt, when his phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Adams, this is Sophia from the bus stop. My sister Isabella and I wanted to thank you again for helping us. We told our mommy about what you did, and she would like to do something nice for you. Could you please call this number when you have time? Sophia." Dustin stared at the message for a long moment, wiping grease from his hands with a shop rag. It was unusual enough that the girls had somehow obtained his phone number. He didn't remember giving it to them, but what struck him more was the formal, mature tone of the text. Most 8-year-olds he knew barely managed to send coherent messages, yet this one read like it had been composed by someone much older. He showed the message to his co-worker Jake, who whistled low. "That's either really sweet or really weird. Man, how'd a couple of kids get your number?" "I have no idea," Dustin admitted. "I definitely didn't give it to them. Maybe they got it from the bus company. Sometimes they keep records of passenger information." Dustin considered this explanation, though it seemed unlikely. The bus company wouldn't typically release personal information, especially to minors. Still, he decided to call the number during his lunch break. The phone was answered on the first ring by a woman with a cultured voice and slight accent he couldn't quite place. "Good afternoon. This is Amara Scott speaking." Hello? This is Dustin Adams. I got a text message from Sophia about calling this number." "Mr. Adams." The woman's voice immediately warmed with genuine enthusiasm. "I am so grateful you called. Sophia and Isabella told me about your incredible kindness on Tuesday evening. I understand you gave up your own bus fare to help my daughters get home safely." "It wasn't really anything special," Dustin replied, feeling uncomfortable with the praise. "Any decent person would have done the same thing." "I'm afraid that's not true, Mr. Adams. My daughters waited at that bus stop for nearly an hour before you arrived, and many people passed by without offering assistance. What you did was extraordinary, especially considering you didn't know who they were or anything about our family." Dustin found himself curious about this last comment. "Speaking of which, how did they get my phone number? I don't remember giving it to them." There was a slight pause before Amara responded. "I hope you'll forgive me for this, but I may have used some resources to locate your contact information. When the girls told me what happened, I felt compelled to reach out and express our gratitude properly." "Resources?" Dustin asked, though something in Amara's tone suggested he might not want to know the details. "Mr. Adams, would it be possible for us to meet in person? I'd very much like to thank you properly, and I believe there might be ways I could help you in return. The girls mentioned that you seemed to be heading home from work, and I got the impression that sacrificing your bus fare might have been more significant than you let on." Dustin felt a flush of embarrassment. Had his financial struggles been that obvious to two young girls? "That's really not necessary, Mrs. Scott. I'm just glad they made it home safely. Please," Amara insisted gently. "It would mean a great deal to my daughters to see you again. They've been talking about you constantly since Tuesday. Would you be available this weekend? Perhaps Saturday afternoon?" Against his better judgment, Dustin found himself agreeing to meet. Something about Amara's voice, the sincerity mixed with an underlying quality he couldn't identify, made it difficult to refuse. They arranged to meet at Riverside Park at 2 p.m. on Saturday. After ending the call, Dustin couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this family than met the eye. The way Amara had obtained his phone number, her mention of resources, and the formal way the twins had expressed themselves all suggested a level of sophistication and means that seemed at odds with two girls being stranded at a bus stop with insufficient fare. That evening, as he helped Luna with her spelling homework, Dustin found himself distracted by questions about the upcoming meeting. Luna noticed his preoccupation immediately. "Daddy, you keep looking at your phone. Are you expecting an important call?" "Not exactly," Dustin replied. "I'm meeting some people tomorrow. The two girls I helped the other day, and their mother." Luna's eyes lit up with interest. "Really? What are they like?" "Well, the girls seem very polite and mature for their age. Their mother sounds educated, wealthy maybe." "Are they nice?" "They seem to be. Their mother wants to thank me for helping them, but I get the feeling there's something she's not telling me." Luna considered this seriously. "Mommy used to say that sometimes grown-ups have complicated reasons for simple things. Maybe their mommy just wants to be sure you know how grateful they are." As always, Luna's wisdom surprised him. "You might be right, sweetheart." Saturday afternoon arrived grey and cool, with the kind of overcast sky that suggested rain might arrive at any moment. Dustin arrived at Riverside Park a few minutes early, choosing a bench near the playground where he could easily spot the family when they arrived. At exactly 2 p.m., he saw Sophia and Isabella walking toward him across the grass. But what stopped him cold was the vehicle they had emerged from. Parked at the curb, gleaming even under the cloudy sky, was a Rolls-Royce Phantom in an unusual golden color that seemed to catch and reflect every available ray of light. Following behind the twins was a woman who could only be their mother. Amara Scott was elegantly dressed in a way that spoke of both wealth and refined taste, but it was her bearing, confident yet approachable, that immediately commanded attention. As she drew closer, Dustin could see that she shared her daughter's large brown eyes, though hers held a depth of experience that suggested she had lived through more than her relatively young appearance might indicate. "Mr. Adams," Amara said, as she approached, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us." As Dustin shook her hand, he noticed that her jewelry, while understated, was clearly expensive. Everything about Amara Scott suggested significant wealth, which made the twins' situation on Tuesday evening even more puzzling. "Please call me Dustin," he replied, still trying to process the disconnect between this obviously affluent family and two girls who had been stranded without adequate bus fare. "Dustin," Amara repeated with a smile. "I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of bringing some coffee and pastries. I thought we might have quite a bit to discuss. As they settled onto the park bench, with Sophia and Isabella flanking their mother, Dustin found himself facing questions he hadn't even known he should ask. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. This was no ordinary family, and Tuesday evening's encounter had been far more significant than he had initially realized. As they settled on the park bench, Amara opened an elegant wicker basket and began laying out what appeared to be gourmet coffee in thermal containers and pastries that looked like they'd come from an upscale bakery. The twins sat quietly, occasionally glancing at Dustin with the same intense gratitude he'd noticed at the bus stop. "Before we begin," Amara said, pouring coffee into real ceramic cups rather than disposable ones, "I want you to know that what you did for Sophia and Isabella meant more to our family than you could possibly understand." Dustin accepted the coffee, noting its rich aroma, clearly not the instant variety he was accustomed to. "I'm still not entirely sure I understand what happened that night. How did two girls from—" He gestured toward the golden Rolls-Royce. "From your obviously comfortable circumstances, end up stranded at a bus stop?" Amara's expression grew serious, and she exchanged a meaningful look with her daughters. That's a complicated story, Dustin. One that involves some decisions I'm not particularly proud of, but which taught all of us valuable lessons about assumptions and human nature. Sophia spoke up, her voice carrying the same mature quality Dustin had noticed in her text message. "Mommy, should we tell him about the test?" "Test?" Dustin repeated, confusion evident in his voice. Amara sighed deeply, clearly struggling with how much to reveal. "Dustin, I'm going to be honest with you, though I'm afraid you might think less of us once you hear the full story. Tuesday evening wasn't entirely accidental." The coffee cup paused halfway to Dustin's lips. "What do you mean?" "My daughters weren't truly stranded," Amara admitted, her voice heavy with something that sounded like regret. "We had been visiting my mother at Grandview Manor. She's been battling cancer, and Tuesday was a particularly difficult day for her. The girls were upset after seeing their grandmother so weak, and during the drive home, they began asking questions about poverty, about people who struggle to meet basic needs." Isabella nodded solemnly. "We'd been learning about homelessness and hunger at school, and we couldn't understand why some people have so little while others have so much. I tried to explain," Amara continued, "but they kept asking whether people would really help strangers, whether kindness existed among people who didn't know each other. They'd heard stories, but they wondered if they were just fairy tales." Dustin felt a cold realization beginning to form in his stomach. "So I made a terrible decision," Amara confessed. "I decided to show them an example of human kindness. By creating a situation where they might experience it firsthand, I gave them only $3 and asked them to try to get home using public transportation while I followed at a distance in my car." The confession hung in the air between them like a physical presence. Dustin set down his coffee cup, his mind reeling with the implications of what he'd just heard. "You used me," he said quietly, his voice carrying hurt rather than anger. "You used your own daughters to conduct some kind of social experiment." "No," Sophia said quickly, reaching out to touch Dustin's arm. "It wasn't like that. Mommy thought maybe one person might give us the extra $1.50 we needed, or maybe help us call someone. She never imagined anyone would give up their own bus fare. When we saw what you did," Isabella added, "when you were willing to walk home instead of taking the bus yourself, everything changed. Mommy started crying in the car." Amara nodded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "What I had intended as a simple lesson for my daughters became something much more profound. Your sacrifice, genuine sacrifice from someone who clearly couldn't afford it, showed us something about humanity that I'd begun to doubt existed." Dustin stood up abruptly, pacing a few steps away from the bench. The beautiful park, the expensive coffee, the golden Rolls-Royce, everything suddenly felt tainted by deception. "I don't understand. If this was all planned, why are we meeting now? What do you want from me?" "We want to make things right," Amara said simply. "What started as my misguided attempt to teach my daughters about kindness became a lesson for all of us, about genuine generosity. You gave something you couldn't afford to give to help people you believed were in need. That act of pure kindness deserves more than just a thank you." "I don't want your money," Dustin said, turning back to face them. "I helped because I thought 2 little girls needed assistance. The fact that they didn't actually need it doesn't change why I did it, but it does make me question everything about this conversation." Sophia and Isabella looked stricken, clearly distressed by Dustin's reaction. Sophia stood up from the bench, approaching him cautiously. "Mr. Dustin," she said, her young voice wavering with emotion, "we know what Mommy did was wrong, but your kindness was real. And when we got home that night, we couldn't stop talking about how someone would give up so much for strangers. It made us want to be better people. It made me want to be a better person too," Amara added quietly. "Dustin, I've spent most of my adult life assuming that people are primarily motivated by self-interest. Building my business, accumulating wealth, It all reinforced my belief that generosity was rare and usually had hidden motives. But watching you sacrifice your own comfort for my daughters, with no expectation of reward or recognition, challenged everything I thought I knew about human nature. Dustin looked between the three faces staring at him with varying expressions of hope, regret, and admiration. Part of him wanted to walk away, to chalk this up to rich people's games and return to his simple, predictable life. But another part, the part that had motivated him to help in the first place, recognized something genuine in their distress. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked finally. Amara reached into her purse and withdrew a business card, which she extended toward him. "I'd like to offer you a job, Dustin. A real opportunity that would utilize your skills and provide financial security for you and your daughter." Dustin looked at the card. Scott Enterprises, Amara Scott, CEO. The address listed was in the most prestigious business district downtown. "What kind of job?" he asked warily. "I own a network of luxury car dealerships across 3 states, Amara explained. "Our flagship location needs a master mechanic who can work on high-end vehicles, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Maserati, Ferrari. The position comes with full benefits, a signing bonus, and a salary that would be more than double what you're currently earning." The offer hung in the air between them, too good to be true, yet apparently genuine. Dustin found himself caught between gratitude for the opportunity and suspicion about the motives behind it. As he studied the business card, he had no idea that this moment of decision would become the pivot point around which his entire future would turn. The business card felt impossibly heavy in Dustin's hands as he stared at the elegant embossed lettering. Scott Enterprises was a name he recognized. Their luxury dealerships were featured regularly in the business section of the local newspaper, and their distinctive gold and black advertising could be seen on billboards throughout the city's upscale districts. "This is real?" he asked, looking up at Amara with a mixture of disbelief and caution. "Completely real," she confirmed. "I've been looking for someone with your particular skill set for months, finding qualified mechanics who can work on ultra-luxury vehicles is surprisingly difficult. Most technicians specialize in common makes and models." Dustin thought about his current position at Sterling Auto Repair, where he worked primarily on domestic vehicles and aging imports. The idea of working on cars worth more than most people's houses was both thrilling and intimidating. "How do you know I'm qualified for something like that?" he asked. "You've never seen my work." Amara smiled slightly. "After Tuesday evening, I may have done some research on you. I spoke with your current supervisor, Mr. Sterling, who had nothing but praise for your diagnostic abilities and work ethic. I also contacted several of your regular customers, who described you as the most honest and skilled mechanic they'd ever worked with." The realization that Amara had been investigating him should have felt invasive, but instead Dustin found himself impressed by her thoroughness. It suggested this offer wasn't just an impulse driven by guilt, but a genuine business and proposition. "Mr. Sterling knows about this?" Dustin asked. "I explained that I was considering offering you a position and asked if he could speak to your character and abilities. He was very complimentary, though he did mention that losing you would be a significant setback for his business." Dustin felt a pang of guilt about potentially leaving Sterling Auto Repair. Mr. Sterling had given him a chance when he was newly widowed and struggling to establish himself as a single parent. The shop had become more than just a workplace. It was where he'd learned to rebuild his confidence and find purpose after Sarah's death. "I'd need time to think about this," Dustin said carefully. "And I'd want to visit your facility, meet the team, understand exactly what would be expected of me. "Of course," Amara replied. "In fact, I'd insist on it. This decision shouldn't be made lightly by either of us. What would you say to visiting our main location Monday morning? You could shadow our current lead technician, see the equipment. We work with and get a feel for the environment. Isabella, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, suddenly spoke up. Will Mr. Dustin bring his daughter to see the cars? I bet she'd like the pretty ones. The mention of Luna brought Dustin back to his primary concern. This job would provide better opportunities for my daughter. Significantly better, Amara confirmed. The position includes full family health coverage, a retirement plan with company matching, paid vacation time, and educational assistance benefits that would help with your daughter's future college expenses. These benefits sounded almost too good to be true. Dustin's current job provided basic health insurance with a high deductible, no retirement benefits, and the kind of financial uncertainty that kept him awake at night, worrying about unexpected expenses. There's something else, Amara continued, her tone becoming more personal. The girls have been asking if they could meet your daughter. They're very curious about the man who would sacrifice so much for strangers, and they'd like to understand what kind of family produces such generous people. Dustin considered this request. Luna's natural curiosity and social nature meant she'd probably enjoy meeting Sophia and Isabella, but he was still processing the complex emotions surrounding this entire situation. Let me talk to Luna about it, he said. She's very mature for her age, but I want to be honest with her about how we met and what this opportunity might mean for our family. As they began packing up the coffee service, Sophia approached Dustin with a small wrapped package. We made something for you, she said shyly, to remember Tuesday, but also to say thank you for showing us what real kindness looks like. Dustin unwrapped the package to find a handcrafted photo frame made from what appeared to be expensive wood, with "Acts of kindness change everything" carved along the bottom in elegant script. Inside was a photo that took his breath away. It showed him at the bus stop, captured from a distance, as he handed money to the bus driver while the twins looked up at him with obvious gratitude. "When did you take this?" he asked, studying the image. "Mommy took it from the car," Isabella explained. She said she wanted to remember the moment when someone proved that good people really exist. The photo was beautifully composed and professionally printed, clearly the work of expensive equipment and skilled processing. But what struck Dustin most was how the image captured something he hadn't been aware of in the moment. The expressions on all three faces told a story of genuine human connection that transcended the circumstances that had brought them together. That evening, Dustin sat at their small kitchen table with Luna, the photo frame positioned between them, as he explained the situation as honestly as he could. He told her about helping the twins, about discovering that their mother was wealthy and had been conducting a test, and about the job offer that could change their lives. Luna listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and studying the photograph, with the serious expression she wore when processing important information. "So they weren't really in trouble," she said finally, "but you helped them anyway because you thought they were." "That's right. And now their mommy wants to help us because she was impressed by your kindness." "Essentially, yes." Luna was quiet for several minutes, tracing the carved words on the frame with her finger. "Daddy, do you think mommy would approve of this job?" The question caught Dustin off guard. Luna rarely brought up Sarah directly, though her mother's influence was evident in many of Luna's observations and values. "I think," Dustin said carefully, "that your mommy would want us to make decisions based on what's best for our family and what aligns with our values. What do you think about it?" "I think," Luna said solemnly, "that if someone wants to reward kindness, maybe that's the universe's way of taking care of us. And I think mommy would want you to have a job where people appreciate how good you are at fixing things." As they prepared for bed that night, Dustin realized that Luna's simple wisdom had helped clarify something important. This opportunity wasn't just about money or career advancement. It was about working with people who valued the same qualities that Sarah had always encouraged in him. Monday morning couldn't come soon enough. Monday morning arrived with crisp, autumn air and the kind of clear sky that made everything seem full of possibility. Dustin had spent the weekend alternating between excitement and anxiety about visiting Scott Enterprises, carefully researching luxury vehicle specifications online and trying to prepare himself for what might be a completely different world. From Sterling Auto Repair, the Scott Enterprises flagship location occupied an entire city block in the Meridian district, the most prestigious commercial area in the city. As Dustin approached the gleaming glass and steel building, he was struck by its architectural elegance, modern yet timeless, with the kind of understated luxury that whispered wealth rather than shouting it. The showroom floor was a temple to automotive excellence. Pristine vehicles were positioned like sculptures under carefully designed lighting, each one representing more money than Dustin had ever earned in a single year. A midnight blue Rolls-Royce Phantom, similar to Amara's golden one, sat prominently near the entrance, its presence commanding respect even from visitors who had no intention of purchasing. Mr. Adams, a woman approached from behind a reception desk that appeared to be carved from a single piece of dark wood. "Ms. Scott is expecting you. She asked me to bring you to her office first before you tour the service facility." Dustin followed her through a corridor lined with photographs of classic luxury vehicles and awards recognizing Scott Enterprises' achievements in customer service and business excellence. The photos told the story of a company that had grown from a single dealership to a regional empire over the past 15 years. Amara's office was on the third floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows that provided a panoramic view of the city. The key space was elegantly appointed but felt functional rather than ostentatious, the office of someone who worked seriously rather than someone who simply owned things. "Dustin," Amara said, rising from behind a desk where she'd been reviewing what appeared to be financial reports. "Thank you for coming. I hope you're ready for an interesting morning." She was dressed in a sharp business suit that conveyed authority without sacrificing femininity, her hair pulled back in a style that suggested she'd already been working for hours despite the early time. "Before we tour the facility," she continued, "I want to share something with you that will help explain why this opportunity means so much to me personally." Amara gestured for Dustin to sit in one of two comfortable chairs positioned near the windows, then took the seat across from him. For a moment, she seemed to be gathering her thoughts, staring out at the city skyline. "The story I told you Saturday about testing human kindness, that was true, but it wasn't the complete truth," she began. "What I didn't tell you was why I felt compelled to conduct that test in the first place." Dustin waited, sensing that whatever Amara was about to reveal would be significant. 15 years ago, I was in a very different situation than I am today," she continued, her voice taking on a vulnerable quality he hadn't heard before. "I was a single mother, recently divorced, working 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over Sophia and Isabella's heads." This revelation struck Dustin like a physical blow. The elegant, confident woman sitting across from him seemed so far removed from the struggle, he knew intimately that he had difficulty processing her words. "3 jobs?" he asked. "I cleaned office buildings at night, worked at a diner during lunch hours, and did data entry from home whenever the girls were sleeping. Some weeks I worked 90 hours and still couldn't pay all our bills." Amara's eyes grew distant, as if she were seeing scenes from a past life. "There were nights when I'd count and recount the money in my purse, trying to figure out how to stretch $12 until payday. I remember standing in grocery stores, calculating the cost of every item, putting things back, because we couldn't afford them." Dustin felt a familiar ache in his chest, the recognition of shared experience that transcended current circumstances. One winter evening, Amara continued, I was with the girls at a bus stop, much like the one where you met them. We'd been to a free clinic because Isabella had been running a fever for days, and I couldn't afford to take her to our regular doctor. I had exact change for the bus ride home, but when we got to the stop, I realized I'd miscounted. We were short $1.50. The parallel to Tuesday evening's encounter was unmistakable, and Dustin began to understand the deeper significance of what had happened between them. It was snowing, getting dark, and the girls were tired and sick. I was trying not to panic, trying to figure out what to do when a man approached us. He was clearly coming home from some kind of manual labor job. His clothes were dirty, he looked exhausted, and I could tell he didn't have much money. Amara paused, her voice becoming thick with emotion. Without hesitation, he gave us the money we needed for the bus fare. When I tried to thank him, to ask for his address so I could repay him, he just said, "Pass it forward when you can." Then he walked away into the snow. Dustin sat in silence, understanding now why his actions on Tuesday had affected Amara so profoundly. "I never forgot that man," she continued. "His kindness kept us from walking 6 miles in a snowstorm with a sick toddler. But more than that, his generosity during what was one of the darkest periods of my life restored my faith in human decency." "What happened after that?" Dustin asked softly. "I was determined to change our circumstances. I used the computer skills from my data entry job to start a small business helping other small businesses with their bookkeeping. Gradually, I built a client base. Eventually, I was able to quit the other jobs and focus entirely on building the business." Amara stood and walked to her desk, picking up a framed photograph that she handed to Dustin. It showed a younger version of herself with the twins, standing in front of a modest apartment building. "That was our home then," she said. "1 bedroom, broken heating, but it was ours. The girls slept in the bedroom, and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room." The similarity to Dustin's current living situation was striking and clearly intentional. "The business grew beyond my wildest expectations," Amara continued. "Within 5 years, I was able to purchase this dealership. Within 10 years, I owned 3 locations. But success brought its own challenges. I became cynical, suspicious of people's motives, convinced that everyone was primarily motivated by self-interest." She returned to her chair, leaning forward intently. "When the girls started asking questions about poverty and kindness, I realized they'd become exactly the kind of person who would have walked past us that night 15 years ago. Wealth had insulated me from the daily struggles that teach us compassion, so the test was my attempt to show them that genuine kindness still existed, while also testing my own beliefs about human nature. I expected someone might help with $1 or 2. I never imagined anyone would make the kind of sacrifice that stranger made for us so many years ago." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "When you gave up your bus fare for my daughters, you became that stranger for me all over again. You reminded me of who I used to be and who I want to be again." The revelation hung between them, transforming everything Dustin thought he understood about the past week's events. This wasn't just about a job opportunity or even about rewarding kindness. It was about one person's attempt to reconnect with their own humanity. "The position I'm offering you," Amara said quietly, "isn't charity. It's an investment in the kind of person I want working for this company. Someone who understands that real wealth isn't about what you have, but about what you're willing to give when it matters most." As Dustin processed this revelation, he realized that accepting this job wouldn't just change his financial circumstances. It would make him part of a story that had been unfolding for 15 years. A story about how kindness travels in circles, touching lives across time and circumstance in ways that seem almost impossibly perfect. The tour of Scott Enterprises' service facility left Dustin speechless. The automotive workshop was unlike anything he'd ever experienced, a cathedral of precision engineering where luxury vehicles received care that bordered on reverence. The facility housed diagnostic equipment that cost more than most people's homes, lifts that moved with whisper-quiet precision, and tool sets that represented the pinnacle of automotive technology. Marcus Rodriguez, the current lead technician, served as Dustin's guide through the facility. Marcus was a man in his early 50s with calloused hands and the confident bearing of someone who had mastered his craft over decades of experience. "Mrs. Scott tells me you've got natural diagnostic instincts," Marcus said as they paused beside a silver Bentley Continental that was receiving routine maintenance. "That's the most important quality in this work. These machines are incredibly sophisticated, but they still respond to someone who understands their language." Dustin ran his hand along the Bentley's elegant lines, marveling at the craftsmanship. "I've worked on plenty of cars, but nothing like this." "The principles are the same," Marcus assured him. "It's just that everything here is built to tolerances that demand absolute precision. A mistake that might be forgivable on a 10-year-old sedan could cost $50,000 on one of these vehicles." As they moved through the facility, Marcus explained the technical requirements of the position. The job would involve not just repair work, but also pre-delivery inspections for new vehicles, customization installations for wealthy clients, and ongoing maintenance for a roster of customers who treated their automobiles as investments rather than mere transportation. "The learning curve is steep," Marcus admitted, "but Ms. Scott has approved paid training at the manufacturer facilities. You'd spend 2 weeks each at Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and Maserati training centers, learning their specific procedures and earning certifications." The idea of manufacturer training was almost as appealing as the salary increase. Dustin had always been largely self-taught, learning through experience and informal mentorship. The prospect of formal education in luxury automotive technology represented an opportunity he'd never imagined possible. After the facility tour, Amara invited Dustin to join her for lunch at an elegant restaurant near the dealership. As they settled into a quiet corner booth, she pulled out a folder containing what appeared to be detailed employment documents. "I want to be completely transparent about what this position entails," she said, opening the folder. "The salary is significantly higher than what you're currently earning, but the expectations are correspondingly elevated." She walked him through the compensation package. A base salary that was indeed more than double his current income, plus performance bonuses that could add another 20% annually. The benefits package included premium health insurance with no deductible, a retirement plan with substantial company matching, 3 weeks of paid vacation, and the educational assistance program she'd mentioned. "There's also a signing bonus," Amara added, sliding another document across the table, "to help with your transition and to acknowledge the disruption this change might cause in your life." Dustin looked at the figure and had to read it twice to ensure he hadn't misunderstood. The signing bonus alone was more than he typically earned in 6 months. "This is incredibly generous," he said quietly. "But I have to ask, are you offering all of this because you feel guilty about the bus stop situation? Or because you genuinely believe I can do this job?" Amara's expression grew serious. "Dustin, I don't build businesses by making emotional decisions. Everything about this offer is based on legitimate business needs and your demonstrated qualifications. The fact that it also allows me to help someone who showed extraordinary kindness to my family is a bonus, not the foundation." She leaned forward, her tone becoming more personal. "I've spent the past week having detailed conversations with your current supervisor, your regular customers, and even your landlord and neighbors. Everyone describes you as reliable, honest, hard-working, and naturally gifted with mechanical problems. Those are the qualities I need in this position. You talk to my neighbors? Dustin asked, surprised. I spoke with Mrs. Chen, who watches. Luna, sometimes. She had nothing but praise for how you've raised your daughter under difficult circumstances. She also mentioned that you regularly help other tenants with minor repairs without expecting payment. The thoroughness of Amara's research was both impressive and slightly overwhelming. It suggested a level of serious consideration that went far beyond impulse or guilt. There's one more thing, Amara continued, reaching into her purse. The girls wanted to contribute something to this conversation. She handed Dustin a sealed envelope with his name, written in careful script across the front. Inside, he found a letter written in alternating handwriting, clearly composed jointly by Sophia and Isabella. Dear Mr. Dustin, the letter began. We wanted to write to you before Mommy offered you the job because we wanted you to know that we think you would be perfect for it. Not just because you're kind, though you are very kind, but because we've been learning about what makes someone good at their work. The letter continued with surprising insight. Mommy says the best employees are people who care about doing things right. Even when no one is watching, we think someone who would give up their bus fare for strangers probably cares about doing things right all the time. We also think your daughter Luna is very lucky to have a daddy who thinks about other people's feelings, and we hope we can be friends with both of you. The letter concluded, we promise we weren't testing you anymore after that first night. Everything since then has been real friendship and real gratitude. We hope you will come work with Mommy because she needs more people around her who remember what it's like to worry about bus fare. Love, Sophia and Isabella. Dustin folded the letter carefully, unexpectedly moved by the children's earnest words. Their perspective on the situation helped clarify something important. This opportunity wasn't about charity or guilt, but about bringing together people who shared similar values and experiences. They wrote that entirely on their own, Amara said. I didn't see it until this morning. They're remarkable girls, Dustin replied. You've raised them with real empathy and wisdom. I've tried, though I'm afraid wealth sometimes insulates children from the experiences that naturally develop compassion. Meeting you reminded all of us about the importance of staying connected to what really matters. As they finished lunch, Amara outlined the timeline for a potential transition. She was willing to give him a week to make his decision, and if he chose to accept, she'd work with Mr. Sterling to ensure a smooth departure that wouldn't leave his current employer in a difficult position. Take time to discuss this with Luna, she urged. This decision affects both of you, and children often have insights that adults miss. That evening, Dustin spread the employment documents across their kitchen table, while Luna worked on homework beside him. As she completed her math problems, she occasionally glanced at the papers with curious interest. Is that the job stuff? She asked when she finished her assignments. It is. What do you think I should do? Luna considered the question with her characteristic seriousness. I think, she said finally, that sometimes when good things happen, we're supposed to say yes instead of worrying about whether we deserve them. Her simple wisdom cut straight to the heart of his hesitation. Dustin realized he'd been so focused on analyzing the opportunity for hidden catches or ulterior motives that he'd lost sight of the fundamental question. Was this good for his family? As he tucked Luna into bed that night, she asked one more question that helped crystallize his decision. Daddy, if you take this job, will you be able to help other people the way that man helped Sophia and Isabella's mommy? What do you mean? Well, if we don't have to worry about money so much, you'll have more to give away when someone needs help, right? Once again, Luna's perspective revealed something profound about the opportunity before them. Financial security wouldn't just improve their own lives, it would enable them to be the kind of people who could help others without sacrifice. As Dustin fell asleep that night, he realized his decision had already been made. Tuesday morning, Dustin called Amara's office before his shift at Sterling Auto Repair began. His hands were slightly unsteady as he dialed, not from nervousness about the decision, but from the magnitude of what accepting this position would mean for his and Luna's future. Ms. Scott's office. This is Jennifer speaking. This is Dustin. Adams, could I speak with Ms. Scott, please? She's expecting my call. Of course, Mr. Adams, please hold one moment. The brief pause felt eternal, filled with the weight of a decision that would reshape everything about their lives. When Amara's voice came through the phone, it carried a warmth that immediately put him at ease. Dustin, good morning. I hope you've had time to think things through. I have, he replied, taking a deep breath. I'd like to accept your offer, Ms. Scott. I want to work for Scott Enterprises. The silence that followed lasted several seconds, and for a moment Dustin wondered if the call had been disconnected. Then he heard what sounded distinctly like Amara crying softly. Ms. Scott, are you all right? I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I realize this might sound strange, but your acceptance means more to me than just filling a position. It feels like completing a circle that began 15 years ago. They spent the next 20 minutes discussing practical details. Amara insisted on meeting with Mr. Sterling personally to ensure Dustin's departure didn't create hardship for Sterling Auto Repair. She offered to provide transition assistance, including temporary contract work for any specialized repairs that might arise before Mr. Sterling could hire and train a replacement. I don't want your kindness to inadvertently cause problems for someone who's been good to you, she explained. Mr. Sterling gave you an opportunity when you needed it most. I respect that kind of loyalty. Dustin's conversation with Mr. Sterling later that morning proved to be both easier and more emotional than he'd anticipated. His boss listened to the offer details with the pragmatic interest of someone who understood both business opportunities and employee needs. Son, Mr. Sterling said after hearing the full story, this isn't just a job change. This is a life transformation. If you turned this down out of loyalty to me, I'd question your judgment. The older man stood from behind his cluttered desk and walked to the window overlooking the shop floor where Dustin had spent the past 6 years learning, growing, and rebuilding his confidence after Sarah's death. You came to me broken, Mr. Sterling continued, his voice gentle but firm. Lost your wife, struggling with a little girl to raise, barely keeping your head above water. I gave you a job, but you gave this place something more valuable: integrity, skill, and the kind of work ethic that made my customers trust us. He turned back to face Dustin. Now someone's offering you a chance to use those same qualities in a position that'll provide real security for your family. Any boss worth his salt would celebrate that, not resent it. That afternoon, Mr. Sterling called an impromptu shop meeting. The mechanics gathered around Dustin's primary work bay, where a 2015 Ford Explorer sat with its hood open, the last repair he'd complete at Sterling Auto. Most of you know Dustin's situation, Mr. Sterling began. Single dad, been working here 6 years. Does the best diagnostic work I've seen in 30 years of business. Well, he's been offered a position with Scott Enterprises that's going to change his family's life. Jake, Dustin's closest co-worker, let out a low whistle. Scott Enterprises? That's the big leagues, man. Those guys work on cars worth more than my house. Exactly, Mr. Sterling continued. It's the kind of opportunity that doesn't come along often, and Dustin's earned it through pure hard work and character. What happened next surprised Dustin completely. Carlos, the shop's oldest mechanic, stepped forward with an envelope. We took up a collection, Carlos said gruffly, clearly uncomfortable with sentiment, but determined to express it anyway. Nothing, Benzie. Just something to help with your transition. Maybe buy some new work clothes that don't have our shop's logo on them. Dustin opened the envelope to find nearly $400 in cash, clearly contributions from every employee in the shop, including the office staff and even the part-time porter who swept floors and organized inventory. "You guys didn't need to do this," Dustin said, his voice breaking slightly. "Yeah, we did," replied Maria, the shop's office manager. "You've helped every one of us at some point. Covered shifts when we were sick, stayed late to finish jobs when we had family emergencies, never asked for anything in return. This is our way of saying we're proud of you." The emotional weight of the moment overwhelmed Dustin. These people had become more than co-workers over the past 6 years. They'd been his extended family during the most difficult period of his life. Their support and celebration of his success revealed something beautiful about human nature that paralleled the kindness he'd shown to Sophia and Isabella. That evening, Dustin and Luna visited Mrs. Chen to share their news. Their elderly neighbor listened to the story with the kind of focused attention she typically reserved for her afternoon soap operas, occasionally asking clarifying questions or making appreciative sounds. "This is what I call karma," Mrs. Chen declared when Dustin finished explaining. "You put kindness into the universe. Universe sends kindness back to you. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the way you expect, but it always comes back." Luna, who had been quietly processing the magnitude of the changes ahead, suddenly asked, "Mrs. Chen, will you visit us in our new apartment?" "New apartment?" Dustin asked, realizing they hadn't yet discussed the practical implications of his increased income. "Well," Luna said logically, "if Daddy's making more money, we can probably afford a place where you don't have to sleep on the couch anymore." Mrs. Chen smiled broadly. "Smart girl, but I hope you don't move too far away. I've gotten used to having you both around." "We won't abandon you," Dustin assured her. "You've been too important to us." Over the weekend, Amara arranged for Dustin to visit the Scott Enterprises training facility, where he'd begin his manufacturer certifications the following month. She also invited him and Luna to dinner at her home, suggesting it was time for the girls to meet and for both families to celebrate this new beginning properly. Amara's house was exactly what Dustin had expected: elegant without being ostentatious, spacious without feeling cold, decorated with the kind of thoughtful touches that suggested genuine appreciation for beauty rather than mere display of wealth. What he hadn't expected was how naturally Luna fit into the environment, immediately engaging with Sophia and Isabella as if they'd been friends for years rather than meeting for the first time. "Your daddy is going to work with cars that cost more than most people's houses," Sophia explained to Luna as they explored the Scott family's game room. "That's a lot of responsibility," Luna replied seriously, "but Daddy's really good at fixing things. He can fix almost anything." Isabella nodded approvingly. "Mommy says the people who take care of expensive cars have to be extra careful and extra honest. She says your daddy is both of those things. As the evening progressed, Dustin found himself in conversation with Amara about plans for the future that extended beyond just his employment. She spoke about establishing a foundation focused on helping working single parents achieve financial stability, describing it as a way to honor the stranger who had helped her family 15 years earlier. "I've been thinking about this for years," she explained as they watched their daughters play together in the backyard. "But I never found the right inspiration or the right perspective. Meeting you reminded me that I'm in a position to be that stranger for other people, to provide the kind of help that changes trajectories rather than just addressing immediate needs." "What would something like that look like?" Dustin asked, intrigued by the concept. Scholarships for trade school certifications, small business loans with favorable terms, emergency assistance funds for people facing temporary crises. The kind of support that helps people build sustainable improvements rather than just survive day to day. The conversation revealed another layer to their developing relationship. This wasn't just about an employer and employee, or even about two families brought together by circumstance. It was about shared values and complementary perspectives that could create something meaningful for their community. As they prepared to leave that evening, Luna approached Amara with the kind of directness that children often bring to important questions. "Ms. Amara," she said solemnly, "are you going to be like family to us now?" Amara knelt to Luna's eye level, her expression soft with affection. "Would you like that, Luna?" "I think so," Luna replied. "Daddy and I don't have very much family, and Sophia and Isabella seem like they'd be good sisters." "Then yes," Amara said, glancing at Dustin with a smile that carried promises of friendship, support, and shared adventures ahead. "I think we're going to be like family." As they drove home that night, Luna fell asleep in the passenger seat while Dustin reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them to this moment. 2 weeks ago, he'd been a struggling single father whose biggest concern was stretching their grocery budget until payday. Now he was embarking on a career that would provide not just financial security, but genuine professional fulfillment, while building relationships that promised to enrich their lives in ways that had nothing to do with money. The transformation felt almost impossibly perfect, yet it had all stemmed from a simple decision to help two children who appeared to need assistance. As Mrs. Chen had said, kindness did indeed travel in circles, returning to those who gave it freely in forms more beautiful than they could have ever imagined. 6 months later, Dustin stood in the service bay of Scott Enterprises, carefully adjusting the timing on a pristine Rolls-Royce Cullinan that belonged to a tech entrepreneur who had insisted on having the best mechanic in the city handle his vehicle's routine maintenance. The irony wasn't lost on him that he was now considered that mechanic, a designation that still felt surreal despite the manufacturer certifications now hanging on his office wall, and the confidence that had grown with each successfully completed repair. The transformation in his professional life had been remarkable, but it paled in comparison to the changes in his personal circumstances. Dustin and Luna now lived in a spacious 2-bedroom apartment in the Riverside Commons complex, a development that offered everything their previous residence had lacked: reliable heating, functioning appliances, a community playground, and neighbors who had become genuine friends rather than simply people who shared the same building. Luna's bedroom was painted in the soft lavender she'd chosen, with built-in shelves that housed her growing collection of books. No longer limited to weekly library visits, she could now own the stories she loved most. Her school supplies came from the higher-end stores rather than discount chains, and her clothing, while still practical, was new rather than second-hand. More importantly, she radiated the confidence that came from knowing her basic needs were secure. The changes went far beyond material improvements. Dustin's relationship with work had been transformed from a daily struggle to make ends meet into genuine professional satisfaction. Each day brought new challenges that engaged his problem-solving abilities, and the respect he'd earned from clients and colleagues had restored his sense of professional pride. Marcus Rodriguez had become both mentor and friend, patiently guiding Dustin through the intricacies of luxury vehicle maintenance, while sharing wisdom accumulated over decades in the automotive industry. Their partnership had proven so effective that Amara had recently promoted Dustin to co-lead technician, with the understanding that he would eventually assume Marcus's role when the older man retired in 2 years. "You've got natural instincts that can't be taught," Marcus had told him just last week. "But more than that, You approach every job like it matters personally to you. That's rare in any field, but especially valuable here, where we're dealing with people's prized possessions. The manufacturer training had exceeded Dustin's expectations, providing not just technical knowledge, but exposure to automotive engineering principles that had expanded his understanding of how vehicles functioned at fundamental levels. He'd returned from the Bentley facility in South Carolina with new appreciation for precision manufacturing, while the Rolls-Royce training in England had been a revelation about the intersection of traditional craftsmanship and modern technology. But perhaps the most significant transformation had been in Dustin's relationship with financial security. For the first time since Sarah's death, he could make decisions based on what was best for his family rather than what they could afford. Luna's college fund grew steadily with automatic contributions that didn't strain their monthly budget. Emergency expenses, when Luna needed glasses or when their car required unexpected repairs, became minor inconveniences rather than major crises. The signing bonus had been used to establish a solid emergency fund, following advice from the financial planner that Amara had recommended. Dustin had initially been intimidated by the idea of working with a financial advisor, but had quickly learned that building wealth was largely about developing sustainable habits rather than making complex investment decisions. The most important thing, the advisor had explained, is that you are now earning enough to save for the future while still enjoying the present. That's a luxury many families never achieve. This financial stability had enabled Dustin to become the kind of person he'd always wanted to be, someone who could help others without sacrificing his family's security. When Mrs. Chen had needed assistance with medical bills, he'd been able to help without hesitation. When a former co-worker from Sterling Auto Repair had faced unexpected unemployment, Dustin had provided temporary support while the man searched for new work. Most significantly, he'd been able to contribute meaningfully to the foundation that Amara had established 6 months earlier. The Scott Family Foundation focused on providing emergency assistance and educational opportunities for working single parents, and Dustin served on its advisory board, helping to evaluate applications and ensure that assistance reached people who could benefit most from temporary support. "You bring a perspective that I can't provide," Amara had told him when inviting him to join the board. "I remember what it felt like to struggle, but that was 15 years ago. You understand the current reality of what families face when they're working hard but still barely getting by." The foundation had already helped 12 families avoid eviction through emergency rent assistance, provided certification training for 6 parents seeking to advance their careers, and established a scholarship program for the teenagers of single parents. Each success story felt personally meaningful to Dustin, who saw reflections of his own previous struggles in every application they approved. Luna had adapted to their new circumstances with the resilience that had always characterized her personality, but also with a maturity that sometimes surprised the adults around her. She'd insisted on continuing to volunteer at the community center, where they'd occasionally received assistance during their most difficult times, explaining that people helped us when we needed it, so now we should help other people. Her friendship with Sophia and Isabella had deepened into genuine sisterhood, with regular playdates, sleepovers, and shared adventures that enriched all 3 girls' lives. The twins had introduced Luna to experiences she'd never had access to: art classes, horseback riding lessons, travel to places beyond their immediate city, while Luna had taught them about resilience, gratitude, and finding joy in simple pleasures. "Luna helps us remember what's really important," Isabella had told her mother after a particularly meaningful conversation about the differences between wanting things and needing things. The relationship between the two families had evolved into something deeper than friendship. Amara had become a trusted advisor for major decisions, while Dustin provided practical perspectives that helped ground her sometimes ambitious ideas in realistic implementation strategies. They developed an easy partnership that benefited both families while maintaining appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. Dustin had initially worried about the power dynamics inherent in their employer-employee relationship, but Amara had proven skilled at compartmentalizing their professional and personal interactions. At work, she was clearly the boss, making final decisions and providing strategic direction. Outside of work, she treated him as an equal partner in their various shared endeavors, seeking his input and respecting his opinions on matters both large and small. I've learned that good relationships are built on mutual respect rather than equal resources, she'd explained when Dustin had raised concerns about their different financial situations. You contribute things to our friendship that have nothing to do with money, perspective, authenticity, and the kind of grounded wisdom that comes from overcoming real challenges. The impact on Luna's education had been particularly meaningful. While she continued attending Oakwood Elementary, Dustin was now able to supplement her classroom learning with tutoring, enrichment programs, and educational experiences that expanded her horizons considerably. Her teachers had noticed increased confidence and engagement, attributing the change to improved stability at home. Luna seems much more relaxed this year, her teacher had mentioned during a recent parent conference. She's always been bright, but now she participates more actively in class discussions and seems willing to take academic risks. It's wonderful to see. The change in Luna's stress levels had been remarkable. She no longer worried about whether they could afford school supplies or whether unexpected expenses might force them to move again. This security had freed her to focus on learning, friendship, and the normal concerns of childhood, rather than the adult worries that had sometimes shadowed her earlier years. On a crisp Saturday morning in early spring, exactly 8 months after the bus stop encounter that had changed everything, Dustin found himself back at Riverside Park with Amara and all 3 girls. They'd come to participate in the Foundation's first annual Kindness Circle event, a community gathering designed to celebrate acts of generosity and encourage ongoing community support. Families who had received assistance from the Foundation shared their stories alongside volunteers who had provided help, creating a network of people connected by shared experiences and mutual support. The event had drawn nearly 200 participants, representing a cross-section of the community that might never have interacted under other circumstances. "This is what I envisioned when we started the Foundation," Amara said as they watched Luna, Sophia, and Isabella organizing games for younger children, not just providing help, but creating connections between people who can support each other going forward. Dustin nodded, observing how naturally the children moved between different family groups, including kids they'd just met in their activities, without regard for differences in background or circumstances. "They don't see the things that make adults hesitant to connect," he observed. "Maybe that's what we need to learn from them," Amara replied. As the afternoon progressed, Dustin found himself in conversations with other Foundation beneficiaries. A single mother who'd used emergency assistance to avoid eviction while completing nursing school. A father who'd received scholarship support for automotive certification training. A grandmother raising her grandchildren who'd been connected with community resources that had stabilized their situation. Each story reinforced his understanding of how relatively small interventions could create dramatic improvements in families' trajectories. The woman who'd avoided eviction was now working as a registered nurse, earning enough to provide stability for her 2 sons. The father with automotive training had found employment that paid nearly double his previous wage. the grandmother, had connected with support services that had transformed her overwhelming responsibility into manageable community partnership. The ripple effects go far beyond the immediate assistance, Amara had noted in her remarks to the gathered families. When we help one parent achieve stability, we improve outcomes for their children, strengthen their communities, and create positive examples that inspire others to both seek help when needed and provide help when possible. As the event concluded, Dustin realized that the transformation in his own life had enabled him to become part of something much larger than personal success. The job opportunity had provided financial security, but the relationships and community connections that had grown from that initial encounter had created a network of mutual support that enriched many lives beyond his own family. That evening, as he tucked Luna into her own bed in their comfortable apartment, she asked the kind of reflective question that had become characteristic of their bedtime conversations. "Daddy, do you think that man who helped Ms. Amara 15 years ago knows how many people his kindness ended up helping?" Dustin considered the question seriously. "I don't think he could have imagined it, sweetheart. When we help someone, we usually can't see all the ways that kindness might spread. Like when you helped Sophia and Isabella, you couldn't know that. Ms. Amara would start the foundation that's helped all those other families." Exactly. That's why it's important to help when we can, even when we can't see the bigger picture. Luna was quiet for a moment, then said, "I want to remember that when I grow up. That even small kindnesses can become big things if we let them." As Dustin turned off her bedroom light and settled in his own room, a luxury he still appreciated every night, he reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them to this point. The decision to give up his bus fare had been spontaneous, motivated by immediate compassion rather than any expectation of future reward. Yet that simple act had opened doors to opportunities, relationships, and community connections that had transformed not just his family's circumstances, but their entire understanding of what was possible. The job at Scott Enterprises had provided financial security, but the deeper gift had been the restoration of his faith in the possibility of positive change. For too long after Sarah's death, he'd felt trapped by circumstances beyond his control, struggling to provide adequately for Luna while maintaining hope for a better future. Now he understood that while some changes required external opportunities, others depended on his willingness to act with kindness regardless of his own situation. As he drifted off to sleep, Dustin felt profound gratitude not just for the material improvements in their lives, but for the reminder that generosity creates connections that can transform communities in ways both seen and unseen. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but he faced them with confidence that kindness, offered freely and without expectation, would continue to create possibilities neither he nor Luna could yet imagine. 2 years had passed since that transformative Tuesday evening at the bus stop, and Dustin found himself standing in front of a mirror in what would soon become his new office at Scott Enterprises. The nameplate on the door read, "Dustin Adams, Lead Service Manager," a title that still felt simultaneously earned and surreal. Marcus Rodriguez had officially retired the previous month, passing the torch to someone he described as the most naturally gifted diagnostic technician I've worked with in 30 years. The promotion represented more than just professional advancement. It was recognition of how completely Dustin had transformed from a struggling single father into a respected leader in his field. The young man who had once counted quarters for bus fare now oversaw a team of 12 master technicians and managed service operations for luxury vehicles worth millions of dollars. But this morning held significance beyond his professional milestone. Today marked the grand opening of the Scott Family Foundation's new Community Resource Center, a converted warehouse space that would serve as headquarters for their expanded mission of supporting working families throughout the region. The center would house job training programs, provide emergency assistance services, offer financial counseling, and serve as a gathering place for community events designed to build connections between families from different backgrounds. Dustin had played a central role in designing the center's programs, drawing from his own experiences to ensure that assistance would be provided with dignity and respect for the intelligence and capabilities of those seeking help. The goal wasn't charity, but rather investment in people who needed temporary support to achieve sustainable improvements in their circumstances. "You ready for this?" Amara's voice came from the doorway of his office. She was dressed in the elegant but approachable style that had become her signature for foundation events, professional enough to command respect, but warm enough to make people feel comfortable approaching her. "As ready as I'll ever be," Dustin replied, straightening his tie. The expensive suit he wore was a far cry from the grease-stained work clothes that had once defined his professional appearance, but he'd insisted on maintaining some connection to his mechanical roots by wearing a vintage watch that had belonged to his father, a factory worker who had taught him to value honest labor above material possessions. Luna's already at the center, helping Sophia and Isabella set up the children's activity area, Amara informed him. "She's become quite the little organizer. This was true. Luna, now 10 years old, had developed remarkable leadership skills and an intuitive understanding of how to make other children feel included and valued. Her own experiences with financial insecurity had given her empathy for families facing similar challenges, while her natural optimism helped create an atmosphere of hope rather than desperation around the Foundation's work. The drive to the Community Resource Center took them through several neighborhoods that represented different economic strata of their city. They passed the apartment complex where Dustin and Luna had once lived, the corner where they'd sometimes waited for the bus when money was particularly tight, and the discount grocery store where Dustin had once carefully calculated the cost of every item in their cart. "Do you ever miss it?" Amara asked as they stopped at a traffic light near Dustin's former neighborhood. "Miss what?" "The simplicity. When your biggest concern was making it to payday before you had to think about managing teams and quarterly budgets and foundation board meetings." Dustin considered the question seriously. "I miss the clarity sometimes," he admitted. "When you're struggling to survive, you know exactly what your priorities are. Success brings different kinds of complexity. But you don't miss the stress." "God, no," Dustin laughed. "I don't miss lying awake at night wondering how I was going to pay for Luna's school supplies, or walking 12 miles home because I'd given away my bus fare." Financial security has been life-changing for both of us. As they arrived at the Community Resource Center, Dustin was struck by how the building's transformation paralleled his own journey. The converted warehouse had been reimagined as an inviting, professional space that maintained industrial elements while creating an atmosphere of warmth and possibility. Large windows filled the interior with natural light, while comfortable seating areas and children's spaces made the environment feel welcoming rather than institutional. The opening ceremony had drawn an impressive crowd. Local politicians, business leaders, and community organizers mingled with families who had received assistance from the Foundation, creating exactly the kind of cross-economic dialogue that Amara had envisioned when establishing the organization. Dustin spotted Mrs. Chen near the refreshment table, wearing her best dress and looking slightly overwhelmed by the elegant crowd. Despite their improved circumstances, he and Luna had maintained their relationship with their former neighbor, visiting regularly and ensuring she had transportation to medical appointments. Mrs. Chen had become an unofficial grandmother to Luna, a role that enriched both their lives. "Mrs. Chen," Luna's voice carried across the room as she noticed their former neighbor. She ran over to hug the elderly woman, then immediately began introducing her to Sophia and Isabella as one of my most important people. The sight of the three girls, so different in background yet clearly devoted to each other, never failed to move Dustin. Their friendship had become a model for the kind of relationships the foundation hoped to foster. Connections based on genuine affection and mutual respect rather than economic similarity. As the formal program began, Dustin found himself called to the small stage that had been erected for the occasion. He'd been asked to speak about the Foundation's mission from the perspective of someone who had experienced both the need for assistance and the ability to provide it. 2 years ago, he began, looking out at the diverse faces in the audience, I was a single father working as a mechanic, struggling to provide for my daughter while keeping hope alive for a better future. I thought I understood what it meant to help others. I'd give a few dollars to someone in need or help a neighbor with a repair when I had time. He paused, spotting Luna in the front row beside Amara. She was watching him with the kind of focused attention she gave to things that mattered deeply to her. But I learned something important that night when I gave up my bus fare to help two girls I'd never met before. Real kindness isn't about helping when it's convenient or when you have extra resources. It's about acting with compassion even when, especially when, you can barely manage your own responsibilities. The audience was quiet, engaged with the story they'd heard in various forms, but never directly from Dustin himself. What I didn't understand at the time was that the act of giving, even when it requires sacrifice, changes something fundamental about how you see yourself and your place in the world. When you discover that you're capable of putting someone else's needs before your own comfort, you realize that you have more power to create positive change than you thought possible. He gestured toward Amara, who was standing off to the side, with the kind of proud smile that suggested she was remembering their first conversation at Riverside Park. The job opportunity that grew out of that encounter provided financial security for my family, but the deeper gift was understanding that kindness creates connections that can transform entire communities. Every family this foundation has helped over the past 2 years represents not just immediate assistance, but potential for ongoing positive impact that will ripple through generations. Dustin's speech continued for several more minutes, describing specific success stories and outlining the Foundation's expanded mission. But what resonated most with the audience was his authenticity, the clear evidence that he understood their struggles not as abstract concepts, but as lived experience that had shaped his perspective on what genuine assistance should look like. After the formal program concluded, Dustin found himself in conversations with Foundation beneficiaries, community leaders, and potential volunteers. One conversation particularly moved him. A young single mother named Sarah, coincidentally sharing his late wife's name, who had used Foundation assistance to complete nursing certification and was now working at the local hospital. Your story gives me hope that this is just the beginning, she told him. That maybe someday I'll be in a position to help other families the way you've helped mine. I'm certain you will be, Dustin replied, meaning it completely. The Foundation doesn't just provide assistance, it creates a network of people who understand the importance of supporting each other. As the afternoon progressed, Dustin noticed Luna organizing an impromptu game that included children from several different families. She had inherited her mother's natural ability to bring people together, but had added her own understanding of how to include those who might feel left out or uncertain about their place in a group. She's remarkable, Amara observed, joining Dustin in watching the children play. You've raised her with such a strong sense of empathy and leadership. She's had good teachers, Dustin replied, glancing at Sophia and Isabella, who were helping facilitate Luna's game. Your daughters have shown her what it looks like to use privilege responsibly. They've learned as much from her as she has from them. Probably more. As the event wound down, Dustin found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. The bus stop encounter that had seemed like a simple act of kindness had evolved into something far more complex and meaningful, a testament to how individual actions could create cascading positive effects that touched dozens of lives. The Scott Family Foundation had now assisted 47 families with emergency support, provided job training for 31 adults, established college scholarships for 18 high school seniors, and created a community network that continued to generate mutual support long after formal assistance ended. Each success story represented not just individual improvement, but potential for ongoing positive impact that would benefit future generations. That evening, as Dustin, Luna, Amara, Sophia, and Isabella gathered for dinner at Amara's house, a tradition that had developed over the past 2 years, the conversation turned to future plans and dreams. Luna spoke excitedly about her interest in becoming a teacher, specifically wanting to work with children from families facing economic challenges. They want to help kids understand that their circumstances don't define their possibilities, she explained, with the kind of mature insight that continued to surprise the adults around her. Sophia and Isabella discussed their own emerging interests. Sophia was drawn to business and social entrepreneurship, while Isabella showed artistic talents that she hoped to combine with community service. Both girls spoke about their plans with an awareness of social responsibility that reflected their mother's values and their friendship with Luna. It's interesting, Amara observed, how the next generation seems to understand instinctively that success carries obligations to help others. Maybe that's the most important lesson we can teach them. Later that night, after returning to their apartment, which they'd chosen to keep despite being able to afford something larger because they loved their community and wanted to remain connected to their roots, Dustin and Luna settled into their evening routine. But instead of their usual bedtime story, Luna had a request. "Daddy, will you tell me again about the night you met Sophia and Isabella? But this time, tell me what you were thinking and feeling, not just what happened." Dustin smiled, settling beside her bed. This story had become a family legend, but Luna's request for the emotional details suggested she was beginning to understand its deeper significance. "I was tired," he began, "and worried about money and looking forward to getting home to you. When I saw those 2 little girls counting their money and looking so worried, I felt the same kind of protective concern I feel for you. Even though you didn't know them, even though I didn't know them, I think when you become a parent, you start seeing all children as deserving of protection and kindness. Your heart expands beyond just your own family." Luna nodded seriously. "And you didn't think about what giving them your money would mean for you?" "Not really. I saw 2 kids who needed help, and I had the ability to provide it. The consequences for me seemed less important than making sure they got home safely." "That's what I want to remember," Luna said quietly. "That helping others should feel automatic, not like something you have to talk yourself into." As Dustin kissed her goodnight and turned off her bedroom light, he realized that Luna had articulated something profound about the nature of genuine kindness. The decision to help Sophia and Isabella hadn't been the result of careful consideration of costs and benefits. It had been an instinctive response to perceived need. Standing in his own bedroom, looking out the window at the city lights that represented thousands of families with their own stories of struggle and hope, Dustin felt profound gratitude for the chain of events that had brought them to this point. The financial security was wonderful, the professional satisfaction was meaningful, and the community connections were enriching. But the greatest gift had been the confirmation that kindness, offered freely and without expectation, could create possibilities that exceeded anything he could have imagined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. Luna would continue growing into the remarkable young woman she was becoming. The foundation would expand its reach and impact. New families would receive assistance that would change their trajectories. And somewhere in the city, other acts of kindness would be creating their own unpredictable chains of positive consequence. As he drifted off to sleep, Dustin smiled, thinking about the man who had helped Amara and her daughters 15 years earlier. A stranger whose simple generosity had ultimately touched dozens of lives in ways he could never have anticipated. That unknown benefactor had become a model for the kind of person Dustin aspired to be. Someone who helped not because it was convenient or profitable, but because it was right. The circle of kindness that had begun with that stranger's sacrifice had grown to encompass a community of people committed to supporting each other through both struggles and celebrations. And in the morning, that circle would continue expanding, one act of compassion at a time, creating connections and possibilities that would ripple forward into a future full of hope. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.